Yours collectors, and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video. Welcome to episode 76 of Ask Boss Bounty. You know the drill by now. This is the weekly series that drops every Sunday where you have the chance to ask me questions in the comment section below, and I do my very best to answer them each week. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured, be sure to leave it in the comment section below, and hopefully you'll be featured next week. And if you do happen to enjoy the video, don't forget to drop a like down below because it really does help the video and the channel. Now, as you can see in front of you here, I do have my Tatooine skiff set up, and there is a reason for that, because you'll probably notice that there are two figures missing from the prisoner skiff. One is Weequay, Team Weequay, which is the figure that I'm voting for in the poll for them to bring back next year. The other one is a character called Velken. I will show an image of him on the screen right now. And I did want to just bring your attention to a petition that John Miko from the Vintage Collection Facebook group has organised. And I want all of you fans of this channel to sign that petition. Please, please, please sign the petition. It will complete the skiff. I do want to point out just a few other people in the community that have been shouting from the hilltops for this figure, and one of those is the guys over at Bantha Skull. They have a section on their website called Scene It, which basically creates the scenes from the movies and has figures that are missing in action. And when they first put out this article, it was a very long time ago, we didn't actually have this guy here, Verdane. And it was this guy here, Verdane, that was missing, along with Velken, who is basically one of the human skiff guards. Now, as I mentioned, there is a petition out there for Hasbro to make this figure, and I'm just going to give you a few of the reasons why it's a very good thing for Hasbro to create this figure. Okay, so as you know, the Vintage Collection and 3 3/4 inch figures and the whole collecting of those figures has a lot to do with world building and creating those scenes from the movies. Now, it's a travesty basically if we can complete the skiff all by Weequay, who I am missing, and then don't have that final character. Now, this character is a blink and you'll miss it character. It's a background character, and you know, 10 years ago, this is possibly the sort of character that Hasbro may have given us, but obviously the line has changed somewhat, but that doesn't mean that we can't request for it to be made. Another reason is if the community comes together and requests a character such as Velken, then it just shows that the community thinks that the Vintage Collection and 3 3/4 should concentrate on those background characters, and then hopefully they'll have the confidence to make even more of them for us. So, you know, it could go back to like the Legacy Collection days where we're getting these really obscure aliens and creatures from the Cantina that we're missing, and the Jabba's Palace, things like that. So it's really, really important that you sign the petition. I'm really asking you very, very nicely to sign the petition. The link for that petition is in the description below, so be sure to head across and sign that petition. There's loads of people behind it. You've got the guys at Bantha Skull, you've got John Miko in the Vintage Collection Facebook group. Jason from Yakface did an Instagram post about it as well. So the whole community is rallying around to show Hasbro that we do want these background characters and to complete the skiff. Alright then, that's me doing my best to pitch to you, Velken. Let's get on with some of the questions. Sean Max says, another great video. Question, do you think we'll get any figures from the Bad Batch in the Vintage Collection? The Black Series is only lacking 5s for the team, but none have been announced for the Vintage Collection yet. I really do hope so, my friend, and we've got this mystery 4-pack around, haven't we? Could that be those 4 characters from the Bad Batch minus ARC Trooper 5s? I certainly hope so. Obviously, it could be a number of other things, but, you know, with the timing and everything of the Bad Batch coming up, it could well be that. Chris Rook says, now that Hasbro has had its big streaming reveal day, how long do you think it will be before we get characters like Starkiller and Cal Kestis in the Vintage Collection Gaming Greats line? So I did actually pose a question about the Gaming Greats to the guys at Hasbro on the Hasbro Q&A. I will leave a link to that video in the description below. And one of my questions was about the Gaming Greats, and basically ultimately asking that if the Gaming Greats that they've announced were successful, would that mean that we would get all new sculpts in terms of Cal Kestis, the second sister, and stuff like that? And their answer was,
so it certainly helps when like any gaming figures do well. It helps to like kind of elevate any character in any gaming. Like if we see that's something that we found in like the Black Series Gaming Grades, is that those have been doing very well. So we've been trying to do more, and that's the reason why those got brought into the Vintage Collection. Is that we've been seeing a lot of success with those. Characters like Cal Kestis and like the second sister, stuff like that, are definitely more in line with like mainline releases if we were to do them. But it certainly helps when these kind of gaming grade figures, when they do well, it helps us a lot to be able to pitch those other characters forward and be able to justify them more.
So that's your answer for that one. If the gaming grace is a success, then that shows that people like the gaming figures, and I think it'd give them more reason for them to make Cal Kestis. A couple of questions about May the 4th here, and the first one's from Jason Hauser, and he says, great video as always, I appreciate all you do. Thank you very much, Jason. My question for next week is, in regards to May the 4th, do you think Hasbro anything planned this year? And Gavin Smith 97 says, at the end of the fan event, they mentioned a Star Wars event on May the 4th. What kind of things do you think, hope they will reveal or announce from the Vintage Collection and Black Series? Cheers, keep up the great work. So there's the first answer. They do have something planned for May the 4th, and I have been told that it will actually be on May the 4th, which is a Tuesday, I believe, which would be a bit different to all the Fan First Fridays and things like that. They tend to be on Fridays, don't they? All those events like the Fan Fest that they just done. This one will be on a Tuesday, and it will be May the 4th, of course. And what do I hope from it? I hope for lots more reveals, obviously. I have a feeling that hopefully we might see some more OT characters. Maybe that Emperor that's on the cards for the end of the year. Be awesome to see that. But perhaps maybe we'll see more of the Rogue One mini beats that they keep mentioning. Of course, we got revealed the Antop Merrick. I've got a feeling we may get Bodhi Rook and Baze Malbus. Those two would be amazing to complete that lineup of characters of the heroes from Rogue One. The Celestial Toy Gazer says, would you ever be interested in collecting Lego Star Wars? Yep, absolutely. I've been a big collector of Lego Star Wars over the years, ever since it came out in 1999. I have sold a lot of it and invested the money into vintage Star Wars carded figures and my loose collection. But I do still have quite a bit of it left. I have the Boba Fett Slave 1, for example, the Ewok Village, a number of the other UCS ships. At the moment, they're all up in the loft, though, in their boxes, because I do not have anywhere to display them. Felix Dingley says, do you think they'll ever make a Stormtrooper Commander figure from the Force Unleashed game in 3.75? I would say that is an absolute dead cert. Now the Gaming Greats is here. I was actually quite surprised we didn't get that one announced, but instead we got the Shadow Stormtrooper. Man, I think they'll use that VC-140 Stormtrooper mould lots of times, and it'll go perfectly with the Stormtrooper Commander. Caleb Scott says, question for next week, what is your favourite Greedo figure? I would have to say that my favourite Greedo is the original vintage Greedo. I don't think you can get anything better than that, really. Of course, it is inaccurate to what he looks like in the film, but he's just a classic. If you're looking at a modern one, then of course you've got the Vintage Saga Collection one here, which is brilliant, all bar the coat for him. I don't think the coat's too well. A lot of people don't like that coat. But in terms of the sculpt and the detailing on this figure, yeah, this is probably the best Greedo that you can get in 3.75. Bill Paulk says, hey boss, question for next week. Are there any 5 POA figures that came out, say during the Rogue One Han Solo era, that you would like to see remade into the Vintage Collection line so they could benefit from better articulation? I'm a big fan of the Imperial Ground Crew, for example, from Rogue One. Yeah, there is so many, mate, to be honest, from Rogue One especially, and from Solo. But if you're talking about Rogue One, you've got Admiral Raddus, you've got Lieutenant Cephala, this one here. He's a great looking figure. He'd be great with loads of articulation. And from the Solo line, I mean, you've got the Imperial Patrol Trooper. That's a fantastic looking trooper. He would look great in the Vintage Collection. You've got figures like Key Tolsite here, who's a really, really good 5 POA figure. He probably wouldn't actually need too much articulation to get him in the line, to be honest. But yeah, there's so many, my friends. So many. Chi-Chi says, hey boss, thanks for reigniting my passion for the Vintage Collection line. Your reviews and live streams have helped bring me back to loving 3.75 inch scale figures. Well, that's amazing news. That's great to hear. 3.75 inch all the way. Question for next week. Do you think Hasbro should start putting out archive waves like they have for the Black Series but for Vintage Collection? Or do you think that is what the reissue waves are for? Yeah, I think Hasbro have confirmed that the original idea behind those reissue waves was for the European market to have the kind of like an archive line like the Black Series has. Of course, those have now been leaking into stores in the US, and it's become more of an international thing now as a way of them getting new collectors in. The difference being is I don't think necessarily they're figures that are like hard to get, which kind of was what the Black Series does. They seem to reissue figures that are, you know, hard to get, like the Bossk figure and the IG-88 at the time. Whereas the Vintage Collection tends to sort of just give you main characters, regardless of whether they're sort of rare or expensive on the secondary market. But yep, that is kind of their archive line in the Vintage Collection. A2SQ says, question for next week. Now that we're getting Endor Leia and a new Endor Han, is there any chance of an Endor Luke in the Vintage Collection? I really wish there would, but unfortunately that is one that would need a completely new sort of resculpt from any of the versions that we've had before. The Han Solo is they've given him a new coat, given him a photo reel, and kind of given us a kind of a new figure there. With the Endor Luke, I think they'd have to go all the way back to the Saga collection, where that figure's just not good enough in terms of the articulation. So unfortunately that would have to be a new one, which means we'll probably be waiting a little bit longer for that one. But the fact that we're getting the other ones and a few of the Ewoks, it does make it more likely that we will in the future. Dave of the Dead says, hi Bossk, thanks for all the great content. My question is regarding the latest round of Q&As with Hasbro. Some really great points raised by all the fan sites, but a lot of differing opinions over the card back layout for the Game & Great subline. Personally, I like the classic look of the upcoming wave, but if they were to deviate, then why not put them on 1985 Power of the Force cards? Maybe with the game logo in place of the coin. Yeah, to be honest, I was actually quite surprised that there was a lot of differing opinions about those card backs and where the logo should be and whether it should be a Star Wars card or a Gaming Greats card, if you like. I quite like the way Hasbro have done it. We haven't got the Gaming Greats logo. We've just got the name of the computer game above the Kennett logo. It doesn't spoil the card. And of course, all the other expanded universe figures that they've been bringing out have been on those standard Star Wars cards. So why mess it up now? Just keep it like it is. And I think ultimately those cards look brilliant the way they are. But that's just my opinion. And I do understand that other people have their own opinion, and that's fine. Mr. Rag says, what is your opinion of the whole Gina Carano situation? Well, to be honest, I don't like to get involved in political business, especially on my Star Wars channel. I do understand that she is Star Wars related, but I kind of like to comment on that situation with regards to how it affects the figures rather than the entertainment and whether she's in the show or not. And of course, there's plenty of other people out there that use their Star Wars profile as a way of letting you know what their political leanings are. And that's just not for me. Landon Scott says, for the next HasLab project, which vehicle do you think they'll do? A few examples are the Ghost from Rebels, the Bad Batch shuttle, etc. I think my opinion about the HasLab is that they kind of keep it safe, whereby they possibly look to the original trilogy. Of course, the Razor Crest was an extremely safe thing for them to do, and it sold like absolute hotcakes. I think if they went too out there with something that's not universally liked by everybody, then they might run into a few problems. And I kind of want to get away from it having to be a big vehicle. I would just love it if they said, here's 12 brand new, newly sculpted figures from the Cantina and Jabba's Goons or whatever. And this is the only way that we can bring them to market because they just will not do well at retail, for example. But here you go. Here are these figures. Do you want them? If you do, then you've got to back them. That would be fantastic. I'd like to see them do something like that. BRFC147, what are your views on the new reveals in the Vintage Collection and the Black Series? In terms of the Black Series, there wasn't really too much to say because we'd seen all of the things already in the pipeline. In terms of the Vintage Collection, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought we got a fair amount of stuff, albeit a lot of it is repaints and repacks. Having said that, I'm sure there's lots of new stuff to come in the coming weeks, hopefully to be revealed on May the 4th. But yeah, I think if you look at where we were a year ago, where I believe Patrick was quoted as saying that, you know, it's just not where the market is at the moment, with when he was referring to the Vintage Collection and 3.75, compared to where we are now, where we look at the Hasbro Q&As, I think 80% of the questions were about the Vintage Collection, and I don't think they can ignore it anymore. And even Patrick was saying, you know, how much the popularity of the Vintage Collection has increased over the last year. So I'm happy. I'm happier than I was last year, put it that way. The Sith Council says, love the vids, man. Keep up the great work. You've got me into the Vintage Collection and I had to bury my wallet. Yeah, I do get a lot of that, and I do apologise for spending everybody else's money, but believe me, it's for a good cause. Here is my question for next week. Do you have any idea when they could re-release the Revenge of the Sith Anakin with a new card back? I think if they were to reissue that figure, it wouldn't come on a new card back. It would just come out on the same one. But I do agree, it'd be nice if we got that figure with the updated photo reel, as I was just mentioning, or a whole new head to get it more accurate. But when they would do that is another matter. I really can't tell you. But fingers crossed that it's soon. Alright then guys, that's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to leave your questions in the comment section below. And please, please, please sign the petition for the Velken Tazeri figure. Let's show Hasbro the sort of things that we want, that we want more depth in the line. New OT figures, background characters, complete the skiff. Sign the petition, guys, please. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for watching, and we shall see you on the next one.